Hey, it is Friday, November 13th, and behind me here are tomato plants. And if you can see those there, they pretty much had it now, finally. But this is Portland, Oregon, and I think a lot of times people think that by the end of August their tomatoes are done, and certainly not, right? I mean, I swear, this time last week, these tomato plants actually were still kind of viable, and they'd already been through a frost at that point. So all the cold weather and the rain at this point has basically made them to die. If I was more industrious, I could pull the vines out and have the tomatoes hanging off the vines and maybe hang them up in the greenhouse or in the potting shed or something to let the tomatoes continue to ripen. But we got a lot of tomatoes already this year, and canned them and froze them and stuff like that. So we don't really have an appetite for doing the extra work on that point. So I've put this on the to-do list of cleaning up the tomato beds and retiring them for the year. That'll include taking down the tomato structure that I have over there. So yeah, just wanted to share with you the status of that so you can kind of see, interestingly enough, how long tomatoes really can kind of survive, so to speak. They didn't do much in the last few weeks, so I am just talking survival, but how long tomato plants can actually survive in the Portland metro area. Well, hello, we're about mid-November here, and not raining today. It's a Sunday, and so that's nice. It's a nice day to be out in the garden and doing things. I don't really have a lot to harvest, though. I think at this point the garden's pretty slowed down, just because I've never yet been successful at timing getting my fall winter vegetable crops in the ground. So you can see behind me I've got some broccoli here that was left over, and it still sprouts, and so I get some off that. I also have some lettuce that's back behind the greenhouse. I'll take you over there and kind of show you that real quick. But those are really the only main crops that I have. I've got some bok choy that I planted, but they've just look like they, despite my best efforts, they're just attacked massively by slugs, and with all the dampness that we've had, that's not too surprising. We do have a lot of peppers in the greenhouse, even though it's been fairly cold. So that's interesting. Maybe I'll take you in there and show you that as well. But yeah, beyond that, it's like from now through January, we won't be harvesting a whole lot from the garden. This is kind of the infrastructure time, and I feel the pressure on to like plan out what all do I want to get done before February, because once we get into February, I do a lot of seeding and a lot of work in the greenhouse on a regular basis, kind of seeding new plants and uppotting new plants and things like that, and it just kind of carries on from then into the main season when things get out into the field here. So people, I've said this before, but people always say, oh, I bet this time of year there's nothing for you to do in the garden, and it's quite the opposite. There's just just a little bit of time here to kind of do some of those infrastructure projects. Like I want to put up some stronger trellises along the beds and things like that, so I'll kind of share that with you as we go. So yeah, let me take you around, show you a few things, and thanks again for joining me here. So as you can see here, I've got bok choy in here that's just been ravaged by the bugs, unfortunately. And I think that's been my experience with kind of the more baby type bok choy, is that I feel like the bigger bok choy, although I haven't planted it recently. I haven't been getting the varieties that I want, but when I plant the bigger bok choy, I feel like it kind of it grows bigger, and at least there can be a few leaves that kind of outgrow the bugs. But when it's like the baby stuff, it's all just low to the ground and always gets kind of killed here, it seems like. And believe me, I've done the slug. In fact, you can see slug pellets still on the ground there. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the birds are getting in here. It does look like there's some interesting kinds of damage, perhaps caterpillars, but I haven't really seen much caterpillar activity, and usually the caterpillars need heat, and I don't see a lot of, and certainly it hasn't been that warm for caterpillars around here. These are broccolis that basically are kind of a sprouting broccoli that I've carried over from, they were blooming in earnest in the summer, and I just kind of kept them alive, trimmed them down, and I just keep kind of cutting the heads off of them for some amount of cropping now. And I'll take you around here. This bed is pretty much done for now. I mean, I've got a few kind of brassica type things plugged in here, and then I have some echinaceas that I planted in there that were kind of a special crop that I wanted. But then back over here, here we've got some more things that are still happening in the winter. Beets, that's what you're seeing here. The greens from the beets, they look like they're getting assaulted somehow. But then over here we've got some chard as well, some beets, and then some chard here. But not a high volume. Again, I haven't done a great job of like getting my succession planting in the summer that would be ready for this time of the year. So I'll try again next year. I think it's really that end of June, beginning of July, you got to get stuff going. And what I find is that the local garden centers don't carry a lot of seedlings for fall, right? So if you don't grow from seed yourself, you're kind of out of luck, is what has been my experience. So this is my lettuce bed, and I've cropped off of it once so far, and so you can see there's some okay leaves in there we can crop off of if we wanted to make a salad. So yeah, that's that stuff. I'm gonna take you. I'll take you into the greenhouse and show you what's going on with the peppers. So as we look at this, it is about 60 degrees in the greenhouse during the day. The greenhouse is not doing a lot to keep the really cold temperatures. So, you know, when it's getting down to say 35 degrees at night, I would say maybe it's 36 or 38 in here, but you know, it's not optimal summer growing conditions for peppers, and yet the chili peppers are still reddening up. So that's kind of an interesting, and in fact I've got something flowering here too. So yeah, I find chili peppers fascinating because they actually, if they're grown by the time you hit a cold season, they do seem to be able to continue kind of growing with the cooler weather. And so over here I've got some sweet peppers. These are called the Jimmy Nardello, I think. Jimmy Nardello, I think is what it's called. But anyway, they're a kind of a peppercini style kind of red sweet pepper. And then what I had back here, these are kind of a yellow banana pepper. So I'm going to harvest these today. Maybe we'll have them with dinner. I like these. These are good tasting. I might even grab one to eat here as a snack. What I've got going on in here is lemon, lime, and orange trees. So I'm just overwintering them in here. I did that last year, and during the summer this year I didn't get any fruit, so I have a bad feeling that it gets too cold in here and it kind of stunts them in some way, but you know, we'll see. I did overwinter begonias in here last year, and it worked. They didn't die, and I was able to plant many of them in the ground. So the begonias do work overwintering in here, strangely enough. And then over there, I've got some habanero peppers. Way too hot for us to really eat or enjoy in any serious way, but I think that they just looked cool to grow. I liked the color and the bright orange glossy skin. And then more peppers back there. You'll see I've got kind of a space heater thing here that's done by Propane. That was just an experiment I'm trying this year. I'm not attempting to keep the greenhouse heated because I don't have the infrastructure. You know, this thing runs off, you know, if I plug it into one of those like tanks that you would use for your home grill, I'm going to go and then try to keep it warm in here throughout a night. I'm going to go through a tank within 1.5 days easily. So, and you know, so then you're talking, you know, anywhere from $18 to $22 probably in our area on a nightly basis if you wanted to try to actually keep it warm in here regularly. And that is somewhat cost prohibitive. I mean, I'm a hobby gardener, not a business, and not doing this for, not trying to sustain myself off of it. So from that perspective, you know, I have other work that and profession and all that, and so I do spend more money on gardening than you should need to, just for the fun of it kind of thing. So I was very curious, like, would it heat this place up and how long it would take and how long it would last. And I did that experiment, and it does heat the, I mean, I got it up on a 40-degree day. I got it up to 70 degrees in here. And then it got down to 60 degrees within about 2 hours after I turned it off, kind of thing. But the problem is, you run that kind of thing at night, you can't turn it off and on in the middle of the night. So you're just running it, and so that's where you're going to just burn through a lot of extra propane. And I think the way to do it at scale, I'm talking a lot about my propane experiment here, propane heating experiment, but I haven't figured out like how you should do it, because I'm guessing that if people did this like professionally, like they were professional greenhouse growers, they of course probably would have a more cost-effective way to do it than I'm doing it. I've heard propane heaters are common for greenhouses, so I think the way to do it would have been if I were to invest in a much bigger propane program, like if behind the greenhouse I had a big old tank that held like 100 gallons of propane or something, and then had a service that was delivering it. I think that buying propane at that scale and then using the heater with that might be cost effective, but that's a bigger project and I'm wanting to bite off at the moment. And so I'm also thinking about, I used to grow all my seedlings indoors in a garage, or and here where I would do it is in the basement. And I'm kind of thinking about that, because maybe bringing these peppers and other things into the basement and having a grow room in there for the months of, starting late November through the end of January, and then start bringing things back out here as the weather kind of warms up a little bit, is a thought that I have. So just some things. I haven't decided where to go with it, but that's kind of telling you where my head is. Well, I'm finally done with this bed, at least for now. I wouldn't say I'm totally done with it. And I really disturbed the soil quite a bit, because over on this side, I dug it up a lot in order to plant bulbs. I was planting a lot of bulbs because I had dug up last year's bulbs, tulips, and so I had all of those to plant on top of what I purchased this year. And I'm not sure how last year's bulbs will do after having dug them up like that. I mean, I've probably talked about this before, but they say, bulbs don't really bloom well in the second year, but I was curious if digging them up may improve how that works. But all that being said, I'm done for now. I've got my bulbs in. I'm done with planting bulbs and tulips. I think hopefully we'll have a great tulip show here one way or the other. And I think the next thing that's going to happen here is, with me disturbing the soil so much, because there was a lot of clay and a lot of old dirt in here, kind of fill that I was putting compost on top of, I have a bad feeling with me digging down into it like that I've just like unearthed all kinds of weed seeds. So probably this is going to be a weed field that I have to deal with. So yeah, we'll do that. I'll show you if I'm right later. So what I wanted to show you all behind me here is, along this decking, I have been hanging up these planters for the strawberries. And the idea is that I pulled a bunch of strawberries out of where I planted all the bulbs along kind of the curbside. And so that area used to be covered with strawberries before I pulled them out and kind of cleaned up that bed. And so I pulled all those out, and I've been working on saving the better plants, or the ones that I think would be better. And then I'm going to replant on the deck here. And the whole idea is to not have to lean over so much to grab strawberries. So hopefully if it works, then we'll have all these deck planters full of strawberries, and it'll be much more of a joy to harvest strawberries next season than the leaning over and finding our strawberries eaten by other things in that bed, as it has been for the last couple of years. So yeah, thank you. You can see one of the cool things about my stream this time of year is I don't have to worry about it running out of water. The rain keeps it nice and full for me, and it just automatically keeps flowing. So this is my strawberry deck project I was telling you about. And these empty beds, I'm just going to come along and fill them up.